In a quiet California town, a respected judge drove to work expecting another day of order and law. But one traffic stop shattered more than just her taillight. What happened next exposed deep prejudice, tested the justice system, and forced one woman to choose between silence and standing tall. This is not just about a judge, it's about what happens when power is abused and dignity refuses to back down. Marissa Bennett never wanted to be a symbol. At 48, she had built a life that was steady, principled, and deliberate. She was a Superior Court judge in Willow Creek, California, a small, diverse town still grappling with the shadows of its past. She didn't wear her achievements like armor. She wore them like skin, seamless, honest, unpretentious. It was a crisp spring morning when everything changed. She had woken early, as always, poured her black coffee, listened to Coltrane on low volume. Carefully dressed in a charcoal gray suit, pinned with a silver brooch shaped like the scales of justice, a gift from her late mentor, Judge Eloise Hadley. Her black judicial robe rested neatly on a hanger in the back seat of her 2010 Honda Accord. The car was modest, aging, but immaculately clean. Only flaw a cracked left taillight from a minor bump in a grocery store parking lot. She had meant to fix it. Life had gotten in the way. Driving through the quiet residential streets toward the courthouse, Marissa felt the morning light stretch across the windshield. A routine day awaited her: a sentencing hearing, a mediation review, and a long overdue mentoring lunch with a young law clerk named Jordan. Then she saw the flashing lights in her rearview mirror. A patrol car, no siren, just the lights. She pulled over without panic, rolled down the window, and waited. Officer James Parker approached slowly, posture tight, gaze hard. He was tall, square-jawed, white, maybe in his mid-40s. His presence was not about service, it was about control, license and registration. He said flatly. Marissa offered both. Of course, officer. I'm Judge Bennett. I believe it may be the tail light. I'm on my way to the courthouse. I didn't ask where you're going. He interrupted, glancing skeptically at her ID. Judge. Huh. He looked at her Honda, then at her robe in the back seat, then at her face. Doesn't look like any judge I've ever seen. The silence stretched. Marissa sat composed, hands still on the steering wheel. I assure you, I am. Officer Parker narrowed his eyes. You know, people like you always think the rules don't apply. He walked back to his cruiser. She exhaled, thinking it was over. It wasn't. When he returned, he didn't have a ticket. He had a baton. Let's make sure no one else misses that broken light, he muttered. And without warning, he raised the baton and slammed it into the taillight. The plastic shattered like ice. Then he struck the right brake light, and the other. Glass rained onto the pavement. He stepped back, satisfied. You can go now, he said. Or would you rather be late for your costume party? Marissa didn't speak. Not yet. She drove forward slowly, face unreadable. But inside her, something split. At the courthouse, she parked and walked in through the side entrance. No robe, no words. Just the brooch still pinned to her chest like a vow. Sandra Lopez, her chief clerk, saw her first. Judge Bennett, Sandra's voice caught. What happened to your car? I was pulled over. Marissa said. Officer James Parker. I'll need a formal record started. And please notify District Attorney Michael Hayes. I'd like a word with him before docket begins. Of course, Sandra whispered, her voice trembling. Marissa walked to her chambers and sat alone for 10 minutes. Not to cry, not to calm down, but to think. She had spent a career believing in the system. She knew its cracks, knew the slow ache of being underestimated. But she also knew its power, when wielded by someone with enough conviction to hold the weight of justice in their hands without shaking. Michael Hayes arrived 20 minutes later. You want me to prosecute? No, Marissa said. I want to see it through. Myself. Judge, he said carefully. You were the victim. I know, but I won't ask for special treatment. I'll ask for accountability. Hayes stared at her, then nodded. Then I'll get the evidence. What followed was a masterclass in quiet resolve. A nearby store had security footage clear, high definition, no obstructions. It captured the stop, the baton strikes, the officer's expression, the judge's stillness. Marissa reviewed it once, then twice. She asked for a digital copy and submitted it herself as part of the official complaint. The next day, Officer Parker was formally charged with malicious destruction of property and abuse of authority with racial motivation. He appeared defiant in handcuffs. He pled not guilty. His defense attorney filed a motion to suppress the video. Denied. He filed another motion to have Judge Bennett recused. Denied again, backed by case law and constitutional precedent. The courtroom filled for the trial. Legal scholars, students, activists, neighbors, all drawn to the sight of a judge stepping down from the bench to take the stand, not to pass judgment, but to stand for herself. Marissa's testimony was spare, precise. He didn't pull me over because of a taillight, she said. He pulled me over because of how I looked in the car I was driving. When I told him I was a judge, he made it clear he didn't believe I belonged in that role. The baton was just a punctuation mark. Hayes followed with a case built on facts. Prior complaints against Parker emerged 6 of them, all quietly dismissed or buried. Most involved minority drivers. None were ever disciplined. Under cross-examination, Parker faltered. His story changed. He claimed fear, then frustration, then confusion. But the video showed none of those things. In closing arguments, Hayes said one line that echoed through the courtroom. This is not about a broken taillight. It's about a broken expectation that some people don't deserve power, no matter how much they've earned it. The jury took just under 4 hours. Guilty. Officer Parker was sentenced to 2 years in prison, fined, and ordered to pay full restitution for damages. The Willow Creek Police Department announced immediate policy reforms and mandatory bias training. It wasn't everything, but it was something. Weeks later, Marissa returned to her routine. Same car, same robe, same coffee and Coltrane. One morning, as she approached the courthouse steps, a teenage girl waited for her Jordan, the law clerk she'd once mentored, Judge Bennett. She said quietly, I want you to know, I saw it all. Not just what he did, but what you did. You didn't just survive it. You dignified it. Marissa smiled gently. We don't choose the battles, but we do choose how we stand. The girl nodded, and Marissa walked forward. Her robe didn't just carry legal authority. It carried the weight of what it meant to be seen, to be doubted, to be challenged and still rise, not with fury, but with purpose. Because justice isn't loud, it's steady. And sometimes, it speaks loudest when it's wearing a cracked taillight and a silver brooch on its chest.